UK's elite schools face a reckoning on rape culture. This website has over 12,000 testimonials of rape culture at UK schools. London CNN. 9 years after being assaulted by a boy she alleged was a student at Eton College, Jan Moon can still remember the moment as if it was yesterday. I can picture the hallway where it happened. His hands around my neck choking me, she says. Then he puts his hands down my pants. It was painful. I told him to stop. Moon says the 5-hour attack took place outside of school in a secluded cottage on England's south coast, and rented for the weekend via friends at the elite girls' boarding school she attended. Bunanda. She was 15 then. Boys from the two all-male schools the girls often socialized with, Eton and Tonbridge, were also there and saw her fight her aggressor off multiple times. Yet no one intervened, she said. We were privileged kids, but despite all the money that goes on the math and lacrosse lessons, not a penny is spent in these schools teaching students about their rights to be safe from this type of behavior, which is the disgrace Moon remembers of her school days. And it's important we talk about this because these are the men who will, in some cases, go on to run the country, she added, as Ethan, which has educated numerous British prime ministers, including the incumbent Boris Johnson and Prince William and Harry, told CNN by email that it does run workshops on healthy relationships, teaching full bills about consent. It said it always takes specific allegations extremely seriously, supporting those affected and working with the police and children's service when appropriate. Safeguarding the welfare of young people is our highest priority, said Ethan in the statement. All involved in education have a responsibility to recognize that we can and must do more so as to effect meaningful and sustained change for the benefit of all young people. The school did not address CNN's specific questions about what John Moon has alleged. Rape culture. Like a growing number of young women in the UK, Moon is speaking out about her experiences and soliciting the memories of others to smash the stigma of discussing a rape culture which they say is rife in schools. What has burst forth is a chorus of anger, drawing out the offending silence that previously surrounded the issue of sexual violence among school children. After compiling a 15-page dossier of alleged incidents at multiple institutions, Moon wrote an open letter to the heads of Eton, Tonbridge, and others, serving them notice under chauvinism that she said runs deep inside the UK's private boys' schools. It ends now, she wrote. James Priory, the headmaster of Tonbridge, expressed significant concern about reading Moon's letter, saying in a statement that such behaviors had no place in his school. Tom Bridge also said in a statement that it teaches consent to its pupils and refers incidents to the authorities when necessary. We will be listening carefully to our students, staff, and alumni, as well as to anyone who has contacted us directly from outside the school in establishing what more we can do to ensure that sexual harassment and abuse are never accepted and that everyone will feel supported and able to come forward if they wish to, he said. Moon's letter follows the initiative Everyone's Invited, a website that has garnered more than 13,000 testimonials detailing rape culture in British schools from current and former students. They include accounts of 10-year-olds being catcalled, 12-year-olds being sexted, and disturbing allegations of rape, all well below the UK's legal age of consent at 16 years old. The testimonies also include allegations of incidents at state schools and universities, highlighting the pervasive nature of harassment and violence against women in the UK, an issue recently thrown into sharp relief by the killing of 33-year-old Londoner Sarah Everard, attacked with while walking home from a friend's house. It's a lot wider than just the schools that have been named, says Everyone's Invited founder Soma Sarah, a Londoner and former student of Wycombe Abbey Girls' School. This is a culture within our whole society of acceptance of sexual aggression and harassment. It's a culture that trivialized and normalized the worst behaviors that can create the environment where sexual violence can exist and thrive. A new helpline and action promised. On Thursday, the UK's Department for Education launched a new helpline to support the potential victims of sexual harassment and abuse in educational settings. The government also announced an immediate review of safeguarding policies in state and independent schools. Meanwhile, the London's Metropolitan Police are investigating several specific offences in relation to allegations on Everyone's Invited, and the police are encouraging sexual assault survivors to speak out and seek support. We have subsequently received a number of reports of specific offences. In addition, where schools have been named on this website, officials who are making contact with those schools and offering specialist support for any potential victims of sexual assault, wrote the Metropolitan Police in a press release. We understand the complex and varied reasons why many victim survivors do not contact law enforcement, but I want to personally reassure anyone who needs our help that we were absolutely here for you, said the Met lead for rape and sexual offenses, Detective Superintendent Mel Layermore. The anonymous nature of the posts shared on such platforms makes it hard to look into claims unless they are specific. Individual schools have also launched investigations. Highgate School in northern London where girls as young as 11 held a walkout in protest, has commissioned an immediate external review of the sexual abuse and harassment allegations raised by students' testimonies. He said in a statement, "We are deeply shocked and horrified by the allegations that have recently come to light. The Highgate they describe runs entirely contrary to the values of our whole community. We are truly sorry." King's College School in Wimbledon, southwest London, also commissioned in an independent review and said it will not accept any form of abuse or discrimination. The school has established a system to handle disclosures made by pupils, past or present, and to offer support. And we urge anyone affected by these issues to come forward, he said. "We everyone's invited website has since stopped posting the names of schools alongside testimonies, but the debate continues. While hundreds of schools were named on the site, some current and former students, like Moon, have written open letters to head teachers detailing their experiences of misogyny, abuse, and sexual violence. On letter penned by former Dulwich College student Samuel Schulenbrook, accused the South London Boys School of being a breeding ground for sexual predators. The letter was written to his former headmaster to raise the awareness of problems at Dulwich, and detailed anonymous stories of sexual violence and harassment put forward by girls at James Allen's Girls' School, the sister school of Dulwich College. Ribbons tied to the gate of James Allen's Girls' School, the sister school of Dulwich College. In response to the often letter and anonymous allegations, Dulwich College headmaster Joe Spence said in a statement, "The behavior described is distressing and entirely unacceptable. We condemn it reservedly. Whilst we cannot comment on anonymous testimonies, any specific and evidence the allegations will be addressed, and we will involve external authorities where appropriate," Spence added. "As a boys' school, the first thing we must do is listen to what women and girls are telling us about their experiences and their concerns. But we also have a particular part to play as educators of boys in making a difference." Victims asked to move schools. The Children's Commissioner, Rachel Des Souza, said in a statement that there is no excuse for any school failing to follow safeguarding guidelines and offer victims support. Activists and women's campaigners say more preventative education is also needed in schools well before the onset on puberty. "I think there is a lack of severity taken when disclosures are made. So often in schools it will be brushed under the carpet," said Elizabeth Brailsford, herself a former head teacher now with Solace Women's Aid, a charity that supports survivors of sexual violence and conducts educational workshops in schools. "Every time we go into in to do a series of our sessions on healthy relationship. We will get young people that come forward and tell us about experiences that they have had. Brailsford said. She added that it's too common for schools to suggest that girls who come forward with disclosures leave the school, even though they are not the one that perpetrated the sexual assault. Women's rights campaigners say that's little surprise in a country where sexual violence is now prosecuted at a much lower rate than in years gone by. Rape, rape prosecution rate dropped it by 30% between 2019 to 2020 compared with the previous year, according to the data from the Crown Prosecution Service. More than 55,000 cases of rape were recorded in 2019 to 2020, but only 1.4% resulted in a charge or summons, the CPS data said. Sexual assault, rape, and attempted sexual violence often goes unreported, and it's difficult to quantitate experiences of rape culture more broadly. Fewer than 16% of victims in England and Wales report their experience of assault to the police, according to data from the Office for National Statistics. But among women aged 16 to 74, more than one in 20, 6.2% have experienced rape or attempt rape, while 4.8% have experienced assault by penetration. Meanwhile, 58% of girls aged 14 to 21 say they have been publicly sexually harassed in their learning environment, according to new survey from Plan International, a global children's charity. I only realized fairly recently that most of the sexual relationship I had when I was younger were not what I would describe as consensual, says Moon. The whole top private school system is set up to protect the boys' prospects and the school's reputation. That's the priority, Moon said. What happens to us girls doesn't matter to them. Lillian Ashes Cog, who contributed to this report.